Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the financial and operational impact of enterprise vulnerability scanning. Look, if you've ever felt like your organization is just bleeding IT budget on tools that generate endless noise, you absolutely aren't alone. We're going to explore how unified scanner consolidation doesn't just patch up your security, but actually drives massive operational efficiency and maximizes your cybersecurity ROI.
So, let's kick things off by asking a really tough question, one that almost every enterprise security leader and CISO faces on a daily basis. You have 5 security scanners. You've purchased the absolute best tools on the market. They're running across your network, your cloud environments, your applications, generating gigabytes of data. So why are you still vulnerable? Why does your enterprise still feel exposed?
Well, the hard truth is, because no single scanner can detect every weakness, we really have to start by busting this persistent industry myth, the idea that buying one incredibly expensive, top-tier enterprise scanner is some kind of silver bullet. The reality is that modern IT environments are just way too messy and complex. You've got legacy data centers mixing with hybrid cloud platforms, you've got shadow IT popping up everywhere, and incredibly deep, complex web applications. There's literally no single scanning engine on the planet built to expertly evaluate every single one of those unique technology layers.
To make sense of all this, here's our agenda. Number 1, the fragmented security problem. 2, why single scanners fail. 3, commercial versus open source tools. 4, enter hybrid vulnerability scanning. And 5, centralizing with the ESPIN appliance.
Okay, part 1, the fragmented security problem.
This is the massive headache of managing multiple, completely isolated vulnerability scanners. When your security tools operate entirely independently, it breeds operational chaos. We're talking multiple management consoles and interfaces. Think about your analysts for a second. If they have to log into 5 different systems, you're already bleeding time. Then, you've got inconsistent risk severity ratings. Vendor A screams that a vulnerability is a critical drop-everything threat, while Vendor B yawns and calls it a medium risk. This leads to highly manual reporting and data consolidation, basically analysts stitching together giant Excel spreadsheets at 2 a.m. just to figure out what's real. You get duplicate vulnerability findings and ultimately wasted budget on overlapping capabilities because you're paying multiple vendors to scan the exact same assets.
To put it in perspective, fragmented scanners are exactly like multiple security guards who absolutely refuse to talk to each other. You've got one guard diligently checking the front doors. You've got another thoroughly checking the ground floor windows. But because they don't share their intelligence, neither of them knows if a thief just climbed right through the roof. You have the personnel, you're paying for the tech, but you completely lack coordinated enterprise risk visibility.
Moving on to part 2, why single scanners fail.
If having too many disconnected scanners is a nightmare, you might naturally think the fix is just consolidating down to one master commercial scanner, right? Well, not quite, because that creates its own dangerous blind spots. Different scanners use completely different detection techniques. A broad network scanner is probably going to miss deep application flaws, and a compliance scanner will completely overlook technical software vulnerabilities. Plus, vulnerability databases vary widely between vendors. Their update cycles are totally inconsistent. One might update signatures the day a threat drops, while another takes a whole week. In complex environments like cloud, IoT, and web apps, they absolutely require specialized testing. If you rely on just one tool, your entire organization is handcuffed to that single vendor's specific blind spots.
Which brings us to part 3, commercial versus open source tools.
To get total enterprise risk visibility, we have to look at the different types of tools we're actually deploying. Commercial scanners offer fantastic enterprise support, advanced reporting, and reliable vendor maintenance, but yes, they come with high licensing costs. On the flip side, open source scanners give you incredibly high flexibility, community-driven development, specialized testing, and massive cost efficiency. The secret here, it isn't about choosing commercial versus open source. It's about making them work in harmony. You want those commercial platforms for broad sweeps and the open source tools for the deep dive, specialized testing.
And that leads us perfectly into part 4, enter hybrid vulnerability scanning.
This is the actual solution that maximizes your current investments, rather than just begging the C-suite for more budget. Hybrid vulnerability scanning is a unified security strategy that combines multiple vulnerability assessment technologies into one centralized management platform to eliminate blind spots. By adopting this architecture, you shift your entire focus. You stop simply managing a bunch of disconnected security tools, and you start actually managing enterprise business risk. You're taking all those isolated security guards and finally giving them a central command center.
So how does this actually workflow? It happens in 4 logical steps. Step 1, asset discovery. Because, hey, you can't protect what you don't even know you have. Step 2, multi-engine assessment. This is where you deploy those varied commercial and open source tools to get multiple perspectives. Step 3, centralized management. You pool all that chaotic data into one single unified dashboard. And step 4, risk prioritization. This is where the magic happens. With a centralized view, you finally prioritize flaws by their actual business impact rather than just panicking over every single technical alert that pops up.
Finally, Part 5, Centralizing with the ESPIN appliance. How do you physically facilitate this hybrid architecture in a corporate environment? A lot of organizations are turning to the ESPIN scanner appliance. Think of it as that centralized brain we've been talking about. It natively consolidates both your commercial and open source scanning technologies. It automates and standardizes your assessment schedules so you aren't relying on manual triggers. Crucially, it creates a single, unified vulnerability reporting structure, which is going to save your team hundreds of hours of manual spreadsheet work. It supports both credentialed and non-credentialed scanning. And ultimately, it transforms raw, confusing technical data into actionable business intelligence that your leadership can actually understand.
Let's talk metrics, because this frames the financial argument perfectly for the C-suite. Look at license utilization. In a fragmented environment, you have high unused capacity. With the ESPIN appliance environment, that utilization is optimized, maximizing your ROI. What about duplication costs? Fragmented means high overlapping payments. ESPIN means those are totally eliminated. In administrative work, you go from incredibly high manual overhead in a fragmented setup to a streamlined and automated workflow with ESPIN. You're getting dramatically better security while actually reducing your operational waste. I want to leave you with this final thought. When you look at your own infrastructure tomorrow morning, ask yourself, are your security tools working together, or are they just working at the same time? True cybersecurity value and true return on investment comes from coordinated visibility, not just owning more tech. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely take a hard look at how hybrid vulnerability scanning could transform your risk management strategy today.